the work of an Iowa-based organization, Bailing Out Benji, kind of helped spark this investigation. Can you tell me about that?
That resolution filed in King County Superior Court requires the company to pay the state $3.75 million with interest.
Bailing Out Benji regularly looks through these records of dogs' movement from state to state.
Bailing Out Benji
played a key part in unraveling a nationwide puppy scheme.
Bailing Out Benji,
an organization that's been working across the country to stop the pipeline of puppy mill breeders.
Bailing Out Benji.
I will use my voice because they don't have one, and I will keep doing it until there are no more puppy mill dogs.
Hi all, welcome to this week's episode of Truth, Lies, and Puppy Mills. I'm Alexis, joined by my colleagues Mindi and Kristen. And this week, we're going to do a part one, actually, of a two-part episode about our online sleuth project. So if you guys follow us on social media, you might have seen that we've kind of dived into the online world, the online selling world, something that really hasn't been investigated deeply. It may be talked about sometimes or kind of mentioned, but we just haven't had too much of an in-depth research into it. And so our organization decided to jump into that. So this week we're just kind of giving an overview of that. And then next week, if you stick with us, you'll hear from our actual volunteers, our online sleuths that are in it doing this work. So yeah.
I'm really excited because this is something like every single week we've been like, oh, we need to talk about online stuff because we started that project in March.
Yeah.
So we're in October now and we still have, I think this might even air in November, right?
boy,
So
yeah.
we haven't talked about it for this long. But before we get into it, we were talking about how I want people to know that we aren't scripted. So I misspeak a lot. Some of it gets edited out in all fairness, but we are just having conversations. So
natural flow of things, and sometimes if you don't have the information in front of you, you're bound to maybe mix up something, and we're just human, guys, so just trying to have conversations and have that familiar, friendly feel.
And then it goes back to our thought of like we don't all have the same beliefs about things, so that's why this is so conversational, because then we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other or new ways of thinking and stuff. So but anyway, how do you want to start diving into online?
Oh boy, I guess. Let's just maybe start off. Oh, you got it.
I was going to say, can I give a brief USDA history a little bit?
Sure. Yeah.
Because the online market wasn't even starting to be regulated by the USDA until 2014. I was going to say 2014, but that's the same thing. So prior to that year, there was no regulation of breeders who sell online. The way that USDA licensees were determined if they need a license, it was just like quote unquote sight unseen. And they could either go to essentially a pet store or a broker. Like that was very heavily where commercial dog breeders were selling.
Because so honestly, it's hard at this point to remember pre-internet world.
I know.
So pre-internet, if you weren't selling at a pet store, you were in a newspaper.
And there still are newspaper ads.
Yeah.
But
Anything else that any other ways that people would get the word out that they had dogs for sale?
Signs on the side of the road, signs in stores. People popped up at parking lots, which also still happens.
Yeah.
And so sight unseen would be then if I had an ad in the paper, if I had a sign on the side of the road, any of that, and I call, if I'm getting a dog, I call the breeder and they say, I'll meet you at Walmart.
You're meeting the breeder then.
So
it's when you don't meet the breeder. It's like they shipped it to you and they didn't meet you in person, or they're at that pet store and you didn't meet the breeder. So it's that. So like if you're meeting the breeder,
is you didn't meet the breeder.
Yeah.
And that can include, especially in this day and age, like transport vans, flights. There are a lot of different ways that you aren't meeting the breeder these days. But yes, prior to 2014, no one really was monitoring the internet, especially since it was just growing. I don't think Facebook even really became a thing until 2007, 2008. So we're really early stages of the internet. But advocacy organizations flagged the online loophole. It was because the USDA really wasn't even trying to license breeders who were only selling online, because it could be argued that maybe that's direct to the public, but that follow through is the public wasn't meeting the breeder to get the thing. So anyway, before we dove into that, I just wanted to say the USDA really only started licensing breeders who sell online in 2014. So we are like 10 years into them even caring about those types of sellers. And we are 10 years into no organizations caring enough to do the research to look online to see who is actually selling online, because the hyper focus has been pet stores. So,
Thank you.
Little history.
Yeah,
but
love that. Yeah, where to go from there? I guess it is kind of wild to me is like that the internet has kind of exploded, and like even though it's been 10 years, like it's not really been a focus. But it's like, well, we do a lot of online shopping. COVID, post-COVID, so much online shopping. And then it is wild to me that it has taken this long for there to be a focus on the online market, because like that's just the natural trend that people are going to. Like I order my groceries online, like that's what I like. So like it's convenient, it's easy, and to think that that might not be a natural trend of new sales more so than pet stores is an interesting thought. But
I wonder if it's just the overwhelmingness of it. Like when we talk about like when you, in the intro you said like nobody was really looking at online, so we decided we would. And I'm like, where do you start? Like that's
with the biggest one.
That's where we started.
Right? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, just grab this little piece and then grab this. But like, no, so we're just gonna start with the internet. I am old enough to remember. This would have been 2000, early, like probably right around the year 2000, if not before. We had a book at the place I worked that was like top 500 internet sites. Like that's how little was on the internet that they could be like, here's 500 sites you might enjoy. Like I remember when we first got this crazy thing for the older people out there, it's called web TV. And so you had a keyboard and you got the internet through your television. It was fancy. We were fancy people. And I Googled, I didn't Google, there was no Google. I searched like German Shepherds, because I was just like, I need something random to search. And so I just searched German Shepherds, and it was like maybe 3 things came up. Like so that's like, and then from there to everything that has ever existed in the entire existence of everything is on the internet. And so I wonder if it's easier for some groups to say like, of course this is moving online, but we're going to keep focusing on this because this is manageable. Like we can count the number of pet stores,
right? One of them is tangible, and I think it's easy.
And you can get your little thermometer and you can say, here's how close we are to ending all of the pet stores selling puppies. Like that's measurable, that's finite. And the internet is just not. It's like nailing Jello to a tree. Like how do you patrol the internet?
I mean it's a massive undertaking, and like we will like caveat that like the internet's huge and we're just focusing on like the biggest brokering websites right now because that's our capability, and of course we're not going to get everything, but it's at least a start, and it's at least acknowledging that this is a market, this is a desirable market. And it's hard because it is overwhelming, but there are certain organizations that are like negating how big the draw to the internet sales are, and that doesn't help this cycle of not talking about it. People still going into puppy mills because they don't know how to approach buying online because we're not talking about it. So it is a big undertaking, and we're not looking at nearly everything, but we're trying to get the biggest or the most conclusive information from the websites that we know people might go to the most. So that's at least starting somewhere. It is a big undertaking. We'd love more help, love more funding to get through that. But for now, doing what we can.
But yeah, to your earlier point, where do you start? Alexis and I, we are go big or go home kind of people. And we were like, puppies.com has, we could see at that time, it was like 70,000 puppies for sale.
It was a lot. Yeah. And then even at that, like they do had like a page about the breeder information, and we could see that there are at least 15,000 advertisers. Whether those profiles were active or not, that's how many were registering on the account. And so after kind of deciding that this was what we're gonna do, and finding a volunteer, that our amazing volunteer Robin, who could help us actualize this project, yeah, we pulled breeder information from the biggest website, which was the most challenging. Took a lot to try to figure out how to do this because it was so big. But essentially, what this project boils down to is pulling all of that like breeder or advertiser information, and then verifying who these people are and finding more information about them. And that's why we have our online sleuths, because each breeder or advertiser on puppies.com has a profile and it has limited information. It doesn't tell us everything. Like, it doesn't tell us how many breeding animals they have. A lot of personal information isn't there. And so we needed our online sleuths to do a lot with a very little amount of information. And so after pulling the advertiser information from this website, we sectioned them out by state and made little projects out of all of those advertisers. Even though some states had hundreds, almost thousands of advertisers, we broke them up into little projects, gave them to our online sleuths, and we're like, see what you can find online. What can you tell us about this advertiser? And like, the main goal of this, though, was to see who needed to be licensed and wasn't, that was on this website. Because once again, that it's an unregulated world.
Yeah.
Nobody's really looking at it. And so we really wanted to go in and find out who's selling on here and who's not properly licensed, whether they need to be federally licensed or licensed with their state. We need to have more information about them. And so that requires taking a little bit of information from their puppies.com profile, finding maybe their websites or other information of where they're selling, and determining how big they are and if they need a license. So that was the main goal, I guess. That's long-winded. But yeah, our online sleuths are just being FBI agents, I guess, in the internet, trying to find information. And then what we're doing with the information after is we're filing complaints on people that should be regulated. We're verifying the information that our volunteers found, verifying it with like state regulation and federal regulation, and then saying like, oh, you need a USDA license, we'll file a complaint on you. Oh, you need a state license, we'll file that with the proper state entity. So
I want to interject for a second.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about what our volunteers are doing.
Yeah.
And they're doing an amazing job. But I have to say, like, you're brilliant in the fact that you could educate each of these volunteers about what every state's regulations were.
Yeah.
So everyone had a mini project, and say everyone's working on California. It's easy since we know there's no state regulation there.
Yeah.
So you were able to tell them, look for these red flags. Those breeders likely need a USDA license.
Yeah.
And so then our volunteers at least had education and some guardrails. So you've done a great job prepping everybody.
Yeah.
And because it's not easy, especially when you get into states like Texas, Indiana, you know, states that have some regulation, but also it's maybe not the easiest to find and determine.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's fair. Thank you. Yeah, just there's no uniformity at the state level, really. So there are states that don't regulate. There are states that have different types of regulation that our sleuths needed to know if they were going to properly label people as needing a complaint or not. So that is the cool aspect too, is their knowledge is growing and they're getting a better image of what's happening. And like, yeah, we do get to share what we know and expand that. So,
and I love that about our organization. We don't gatekeep information.
No.
We don't gatekeep knowledge. We are truly trying to make everybody the best advocate they can be. Because if you know what to say, if you know what to look for, you can tell the people in your community. You don't have to come back to our office team and say, hey, what am I supposed to say when my friend asks me this question?
Yeah.
We're here for that. But when you have all of these amazingly talented and educated people out in their world having these conversations, like, we know that that's having a ripple effect we can't see right now because they are training their friends and family on how to buy.
I saw a Facebook post, I don't know if it's hit your radar yet, in our volunteer group, where someone posted about a breeder.
Was it the South Carolina breeder?
Maybe. And was like, how do we look into this, or how do we learn more?
Yes.
And I was like, why hasn't anyone tagged Alexis? Like, there's all these comments. And I was like, somebody bring Alexis into this conversation. But what I realized was happening was like Shannon chimed in and she was like, do you know how to look them up on the USDA site? And so then it had this whole like conversation where like our volunteers are more seasoned volunteers training some of the newer volunteers about some of the tricks of the trade right there in this thread. And I was like, and my first instinct was like, get Alexis. But like the whole point, we talk about this with each of our positions, is we don't want to be the ones that have to do all of the things. We want to empower and educate the other people to do the things. And so that was kind of fun to see like, oh, this is so cool. Like we're reaching out and
Yeah.
educating each other. And
And
Love
that's
that.
so Alexis, that I know we
Yeah.
love our
Yeah.
volunteer group for
Yeah.
that reason.
Mhm.
It's like the camaraderie.
Mhm.
And Alexis kind of created that like with a mini message group. So
Mhm.
all of our sleuth volunteers are in
Yeah.
a private message that gets really spicy and funny and supportive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they've created this little smaller community
Yeah.
within our volunteer team. And they're like, hey, I found this website. This is how you can look up this type of data, or I don't want to get too deep into how our volunteers do their work, but they're sharing tips.
Yeah.
Someone will say, hey, I have a question about this specific thing, and someone else chimes in and they're like, here's how you can look it up. So
Yeah. And they become our super users who then help other people learn as well, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love our group chat. That was probably one of my favorite things that we created, because we've tried with a few things in the past, but it was really this project that we saw our volunteers just like so passionate about, so excited about. And yeah, sometimes it's just like your phone's just like ping, 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 because everyone's like found something that they're very excited about and they're helping each other find more information about it. And yeah, it's absolutely exciting. But it's also exciting to see like how knowledge is like disseminating to other people. It was like, because that's what we want. That's how we make change, is like that more people are becoming informed and then passing that on. So it is exciting to see with our volunteers and then seeing them do that in the community. So that's exciting.
And you're appropriately wearing your Pawn Order shirt today.
I am, yes. This is our one that we have for the public, but we did make little special ones for our online sleuth group because we started this project in March. We called it our March Madness Project. This was when we
don't sue us, NCAA.
Has nothing to do with basketball.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
The madness of the internet, and it was March.
Yes, it was the madness of this project because, like, as we mentioned, puppies.com is a massive website. It has so many advertisers on it, and it had so many projects. And so we knew that this was like a massive undertaking, and we thought it was funny to like call it March Madness because like we just got like a group of like volunteers. I think at our height we had like 16 volunteers going through these projects. And so it's just like this mad dash to like see how many we could get through, and we still have people working on that too, but it was like March was going to be like the big push for these projects. I forgot where I was going with that.
The shirts.
Yes, the shirts. Thank you. But it was just like, this was such a big project, and there were so many dedicated volunteers that were so excited about this, and like we wanted to like give them a little like thank you and like harbor that sense of community that had already started with this project and with the group chat and stuff. And so we made them these Pawn Order online sleuth shirts. It's like a specialty unit kind of thing with their names on it, and just like it's especially for just this like group because they've done such amazing work, and this was such a big project that we are so thankful that we had people to help us with, because if it was just us, like we would not be as far along as we are now. We wouldn't have nearly as much information or as big of a grasp as we are getting from the help of our volunteers. And so yeah, we made those Pawn Order shirts for our volunteers, and then they're of course wearing them out in their community, showing the other volunteers what they are, and like people are like, oh my god, I love that so much. And so we kind of like made this public one as well, but it did.
And this one is more generic.
It's more generic, yeah. The online Puppy Mills sleuth unit one, we really wanted to be special for our volunteers because they are very special to us, very dear. But this was like just too fun of a thing to like
to keep to ourselves.
Yes, yeah. So we did share it with the public, but still keep that special element for our volunteers for the amazing work that they're doing. Right. So. Yeah.
And I liked how we kind of talked. I feel like initially it was like this 30-day push. Like, we're going to do this in March. And then I feel like we're going to conquer the internet in March.
Yeah.
But I feel like the thought was, let's see if we get anyone who's interested in helping. Maybe we can get a few people who will agree to do this for 30 days.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the vibe was like, let's keep going. Like, they didn't want to be done in March. And some people dropped off, but some people were like, oh, there is so much more to do. Let's keep going. And to me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's that, like, when you come up with an idea and then the group just takes it and runs.
Yes.
That's fun.
Yeah. No, I do love that. Cause yeah, this is another like section of our research now. Like just like how we do CVI work, like this is another little like unit of what we need to be looking at. So it is very exciting to have volunteers that are so dedicated about it and so excited about it, because like that's what we need, because this is for us a long-term project. We are trying to conquer the internet, and it doesn't just stop at puppies.com. Even though we've started with the largest, we're also looking at other brokering websites, and we're looking to expand, because there's overlap for people selling at other sites, but also there's a lot of new information at other sites. So we're just trying to gain as much as possible. So to our volunteers who do listen, please stick with us. We love you. We need you. And this is definitely a long-term project. So if you are super interested in it, please stick on. Like, we love you.
So since we're talking about online, really quickly, I want to talk about the difference between a brokering website and marketplace.
Yeah.
Because right now in this episode, we're using online broker as like the same thing, which is fair and valid, but that's kind of the overall umbrella. And this is something we learned when I don't want to say we learned, but someone corrected us about our terminology.
Gave us more nuance.
It was actually a breeder. We had released our licensed search engine, and they went and found their profile and emailed and was like, hey, you have me as selling through an online broker. I sell all of my dogs direct to the public. I don't sell online. And I was like, okay, thank you so much for reaching out. We have you as selling through puppies.com. So that's why we have you reflected that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really I can't address your problem, but thank you for reaching out, kind of. Like, I didn't really know how to handle that, how they were going to react.
Yeah.
And they reacted with kindness and patience and education. And they were like, well, did you know that puppies.com is more of a marketplace? So we are in charge of our sales. So that is more direct. Granted, however, their shipping, delivery, whatever that looks like, may or may not be our definition of direct.
Yeah.
But she is saying she handles her sales. And so that would be puppies.com. When you're looking at puppyspot.com, puppyspot.com is just a listing agency for puppies. That website is a broker because they do not list any breeder information. That brokering website sells the puppies for the breeder with no transparency.
Do they buy the puppies from the breeder and then put them on the site to sell them? So now the broker owns these dogs and is selling them, or it's still a pass-through situation. They're just kind of a wall between the website and the broker.
So I think it's a pass-through situation.
Okay.
Of course, we don't know all the ins and outs of how every website works
Yet.
But but like when we're looking at like our pet store work and all of the lawsuits and the documents we were able to read through, all of that in all of those investigations, we're able to see that like breeders their online platforms that breeders can list their puppies, like what they have or what's coming up, and then pet stores can place orders, brokers can place orders, whatever. So there's already some kind of behind the scenes system where the breeder can communicate what breeds, what litters, whatever is coming up, and then the people in their industry can like handpick who they want to buy from, or puppies specifically if you're looking at breeds. So I would assume puppyspot.com works in a similar fashion, where the breeders would alert the online broker to what is coming up or whatever, and then PuppySpot sells it. But that's why it's different. That's why that is a broker in the sense that they're the ones facilitating the sale, where the marketplaces, and that would be Lancaster Puppies, Buckeye Puppies, there's one more, AKC Marketplace, those types are more in line with puppies.com because the breeder is listing their own puppies for sale.
Do we know, so is PuppySpot, are they the broker? Or it's, here's this website, here's this population of brokers who are dealing with this population of breeders, and PuppySpot is outside of it all. The brokers just sell through it. Or PuppySpot themselves are a broker.
PuppySpot is a USDA licensed broker.
Got you. Okay.
They don't ever have any puppies on site.
Right.
They are literally an office like we are and have a lot of paperwork that they get, the USDA goes through.
Gotcha.
But they are acting as the broker.
Okay.
And the way that we can get data from websites like that is not as easy as the way we can get the public facing stuff, because the marketplaces, breeders are selling directly, so it is their profile. PuppySpot, there's zero transparency because of the way we do our work. We have been able to find a lot of breeders that sell through puppyspot.com just because we're fun little geniuses behind the scenes. I am going to brag. Like, we don't get enough credit sometimes for the stuff that we discover.
I need
it was literally Mindi finding a pattern And then,
right.
Yeah.
And a code.
Yeah.
And like, it was just like, it was like a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to make the both of you shirts that have our logo on the front
Mhm.
because we talked about that front and
Yes,
center.
yeah.
And on the back, it's going to say Fun Little Geniuses.
That is funny. I
But,
love
like,
that.
I do like to
Or
pat
maybe like your
ourselves.
business cards. Fun Little Genius.
Yes.
That's just our titles.
Hi,
Yeah,
I'm Alexis
that's our
Bell, Fun Little
titles.
Genius.
So funny.
Subheading. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, thank you for saying that because going into this project, I also didn't think about that difference. So thank you to the person who reached out to us about that because now it is kind of like changing how we look at them and also differentiating between more of like, well, where is the problem area? And like marketplaces are still a problem area, but it is an issue that the actual online brokers aren't sharing who the breeders are. It's like if you're going to buy a puppy, you should know who that person is and what type of place they are. Like, so yeah, that's another thing into our.
So as a consumer, if I buy a puppy on Puppy Spot, if I say, who's the breeder? If I know to ask, so who's the breeder? Am I told? Do we know? Do I need to go
Much like with pet stores, you are often told when you've bought the puppy or when you have expressed serious interest in buying the puppy. Alexis can't just pretend to buy a puppy from Puppy Spot and get information from them.
I get flagged with how many I'd have to give.
I mean,
But yeah, I didn't know. Like my first thought was, okay, so the consumer must think that the broker is the breeder. But in this case, the website is the broker. So I know Puppy Spot's not breeding the dogs. So if I want to say, like, where did this puppy come from? I have to literally give them a credit card number before they'll tell me that.
in some cases, I can't
Yeah,
say
right.
specifically for Puppy
Yeah.
Spot, but
Yeah.
it's their way of sussing out like people like us who are just trying to get information. But also,
But why do you have to suss out people getting information if you're not doing anything wrong? That's where I come back to. Right. And I don't know how many consumers know to even wonder where the puppy comes from.
well, based on the emails we get, there are a lot of people who buy from brokering websites or from pet stores, and they didn't think to ask. And then they get home. I mean, imagine you just adopted Moochie.
Yeah, we need to pause this podcast for the cutest puppy in the entire world. Hi, sweetheart. Look at how cute she is, just laying there sleeping like she's done every podcast episode. She's the sweetest thing. Anyway, so yes, I just got Moochie.
You just got Moochie. In the moment, you were so excited that you didn't think to ask some important questions that later you were like, wait, when does she need flea and tick again? Like all those little things. You were so excited that day that you had other questions. I know you asked them. You had it on your mind to make sure these dogs even got along. So in that very safe environment, you were like, oh, you didn't even think about the questions, right? And that's not a dig. You were just excited for a new puppy. Oh, here's Leia, who's jealous of her new sister.
Hi, did you hear us talking about how cute Moochie is?
Oh,
I know, you're cute too. You're cute too.
So
Yes,
imagine being in a pet store.
Right.
And you may or may not have a kid with you that's also pumped about this new puppy. And so you're not looking through the documents. I think pet stores have gotten we've seen some packets that customers have sent us. And buried way, way, way deep in there is often breeder paperwork, but it's also buried deep into a 40-page packet that they give you that you are not looking at when you go home because you're playing with your new puppy. So customers just don't ask.
But really, truly, I mean, I think a lot of people understand the concept of puppy mill. I have met people at events where I will say, do you know what a puppy mill is? Because I always start in with like, we research puppy mills. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Do you know what a puppy mill is? And some people will be like, I mean, maybe. Honestly, before I met you, I probably had I didn't think about it. And so I don't even know if I go to a pet store and buy it, even if somebody says, here's who the breeder is, I have no reason to suspect that breeder isn't anything other than what I would picture a dog breeder to be.
And that's transparency. So when we are also saying, hey, ask about transparency, ask about this stuff, there are pet stores that will give you the name of a breeder or we'll say kennel name. And then you walk away and then you Google it and you're like, damn, violations. Like, what do you mean they just told me the name of that breeder? So sometimes transparency fails because the public doesn't do their due diligence of looking up. They assume trust because if I'm giving you that name, then I must be proud of it.
Yeah.
So, and that's where our CVI data has always come in handy. We've always transparently listed all of the breeders we knew about selling to all of the pet stores across the country. And because of Robin and her amazing skills and our online volunteers, we've now greatly expanded the work we're doing by looking at these online places.
I had a couple of questions earlier, and I only remember one of them. Maybe the other one will come back to me. When we started looking at these online sellers then and digging into like, who are these people? Was there overlap with breeders that we already have in our database? I mean, I'm assuming we're seeing some that are like, yep, on our radar, got it. And then we're finding new ones as well to follow up on.
That's a fun question because there is overlap, especially in like states like our Midwest states that really license at the state level, and we see a lot of USDA licensees. We do have a lot of overlap in those states. It's the states that don't regulate and aren't really looked at that we don't see as many USDA licensees or state licensees because they don't license them. But it's also fun too because with this project we're able to see people from our database that were like, oh, you have a canceled license, but here you are selling online, and actually you have enough breeding females to actually still need a license. That's interesting. So that's been the cool part about this project too, is because other people who just look at like the canceled licenses and like, yes, this is a victory, this is a win. But wait, did you look at all the avenues? And like, they're still selling. Like, they're not selling to pet stores anymore. They may not have like individual sales that we can track record wise, but they're selling online still. So that's been, there is overlap. So it's very handy to have our database where we keep track of all the people that we find pretty much, and to be able to see what's still happening behind the scenes when other people have stopped looking.
Right. And so that is really a fascinating thing, as we haven't talked about Complaint Fridays. We haven't really gone into it yet.
No.
So we've got volunteers working on basically the data gathering. And then they are making notes and letting us know, we think this person needs a license. So then Alexis, Rosie, and I, we meet on random Fridays at a coffee shop, and we complain about life, we complain about work, and we file complaints on all of these breeders.
Work is happening.
It's Complaint Fridays for a lot of reasons. But so we have to go through each of these individual sellers and then determine, do they actually need a license? Like Alexis noted, the Midwest states that have the most regulation, we are filing the least amount of complaints in, because the breeders in those states typically know they need a license. So what we see, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we typically see in like Missouri is someone has a state license. They probably also need a USDA because they're delivering or they're shipping. The same in Iowa. So if we're filing complaints, it's because they may have one and they need both. But places like Florida and California, like Tennessee, these states are completely off the grid because they don't have licensing regulations. And so we are filing way more USDA complaints there because there's also no breeder education happening. So it's just a really interesting thing that like we're all seeing behind the scenes, but we have to file these complaints so slowly. We can't bombard these departments. What a lot of people don't realize is, like, say we're filing a complaint with the USDA. It's a very simple form online. You put the city and state. So if I'm filing a complaint on bailing out Benji, I put Ames, Iowa. That complaint gets filtered to the inspector that oversees my area. And then it's on that inspector to follow up with the complaint. So most of our complaints get open investigations and the breeders get licensed because we have so much information that we include in the complaint that it's like, here's all the evidence we have. It makes the job really easy for the inspector. They just kind of have to confirm it with the breeder. But it's not helpful when you don't realize, like, you're just filing a complaint. The general public, they'll say, oh, there's a dog barking. There are dogs barking in this field. Those types of complaints don't matter. But we need to make sure that we are also very thoughtful with how we're filing the complaints, because one inspector, if we're focusing on Texas, we don't want those inspectors to get inundated and then maybe miss problematic facilities they should have through our complaints. So we try to be really mindful behind the scenes about that. This is just like it's a really fun thing we're doing. And when we're talking about like information dissemination and helping the public, in the lens of educating our colleagues too, we have forced a lot of our colleagues in this space. And when we use the word colleagues, we're typically talking like national. And I hope people listening realize that if we have critiques for the industry, or if we're saying like the industry needs to move, it's really leadership positions. I am not talking to that advocate in Madison, Wisconsin, who's trying her best, right? Like, we're talking about the people who are getting paid the big bucks to steer this big ship. And they're the ones we are trying to screen at. Like, please help us. Please pay attention to this growing, scary issue.
Yeah, no, it has been interesting since we did our a webinar a while ago where we'd mentioned that we're starting into the online market, and now a lot more organizations are talking about the online market. They're putting them in their research.
I was going to say, we were very loud. Look, we're looking at puppies.com.
Yeah.
That is, again, the largest target, but they have a lot of transparency. So it's relatively easy to find a bad breeder. Like, if you're looking to further your agenda, it's really easy to go into a state that you know has a lot of violations. We'll say Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Find a seller that name sounds familiar, and then say, look, puppy mills are selling through this one website. So we noticed very quickly that like our other colleagues in this space, when they started talking about online, that's what their tactic was. It was really quick, go in and pull out a few things, and then they get to be a part of the narrative too. They get to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, I guess I should, the more nuanced.
But that more nuanced is we are looking at all of it. Like, we're not trying to cause trouble. We're trying to get a handle on this wild, wild west of online sales and bring people into regulation at the same time. Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Like, we are causing change in the pet industry, the breeders and the brokers, and we're also forcing our colleagues to change and kind of come up with the times a little bit. And let's start talking about the new world of puppy buying.
Yes. Protect consumers and dogs.
Protecting consumers and dogs,
Okay, so you have talked about kind of what we're finding, and we're making sure, like, part of this is making sure that we're bringing people into regulation and they're licensed how they should be. As you've gotten into looking at these breeders, are you finding that most of them are checking the boxes that need to be checked? But as you research them, are you finding a lot that are not licensed?
Yeah, I think so. If people have seen on our social media, we are very open about like who we're tracking and how many we're tracking. And between like state licensing and USDA licensing, the overlap is that there's about 5,000 licensees. And then if you remember from earlier when we said there are 15,000 advertisers on the puppies.com website alone, you're like, that's 10,000 that kind of appear like they're unregulated. That's like, I will caveat that like puppies.com, like we do find that there are sometimes just advertisers that are selling one off, or like they're like not actual advertisers, like they're scams, of course, but not as many. But there are a lot of like legit unlicensed people. And if we look at the data too of like where advertisers are, we're seeing them in California, we're seeing them in Florida. Like California and Florida have upwards of 800, 900 advertisers. And that's like a lot of unlicensed, because there are not a lot of licensed USDA breeders in either of those states. And so, we are finding that the unlicensed world is very prominent in the online market. And so that's why it's so important that we're out here auditing who is selling and then trying to bring them into compliance, because like Mindi had mentioned, California is like a state that doesn't license breeders. And so like a lot of people fly under the radar because they, one, maybe don't know what the USDA requirements are then, because like it's not talked about a lot, or two, like they're just out there doing their business, and then like no one's checking in on them and saying like, hey, you actually need to be USDA licensed. Like it's just not.
Yeah. And we're also finding, like, especially in those states, sellers on puppies.com acting like brokers.
Yeah.
And so it will be one person. The way we know that, I saw your eyes move.
I was just doing the math. I had like sellers acting like brokers. Okay.
So like typically a breeder will have one or two breeds they're selling. It's not too many. But when they're selling on a puppies.com website, they're selling like a litter of puppies, right? That's how they're selling. So they have multiple of that breed. We are noticing going through some of these really large sites that don't that don't necessarily have the commercial dog breeders. They will have like 12, like one seller will have 12 breeds of dog for sale. So that tells us they are likely getting those dogs. Either they're a huge breeding operation and they need a license, or they are getting those dogs elsewhere and reselling them, which makes them a broker, which means they need a USDA license because they're brokering.
Yeah. And that's like sometimes information that we can find from our online sleuthing. Like you may just see their profile, but like you dive a little bit deeper into some of the information you found and you find like their website, and then they're like, we rehome for other families, or like we sell for other families, and you're like, oh, you're a broker. You need a broker license to do that. Like if you're getting puppies from other people and reselling them, no matter the level, you need that license.
So someone can be a breeder and a broker. I breed my own
Yeah.
dogs, but I'm also a broker for other breeders.
Yeah, and as a reminder, because I think it was a shock to some of our volunteers too, is like if you have a broker's license, you are like that does cover you breeding. So yeah,
Okay.
Right. And again, I think we talked about it episodes and episodes ago, but as a quick refresher, if you were a broker in the sense that you're just a dealer, just a broker, you would have a lot of puppies and you sell them. There are breeders who are breeding focused, but also have a broker license because they happen to sometimes buy and resell local puppies. So in the sense of brokers that sell through pet stores and like, you know, that big scary world, that is one type of dealer license. I mean, it's the same license, but one way to operate under a dealer license. And then there are breeders who are way more focused on just the breeding.
Gotcha.
Is that confusing?
Yeah,
so much.
lots of
information.
fun little, it's a very complex industry.
That's why you can't talk about it on surface level.
Yeah,
right.
Like this industry is so deep. And we said it last year when we started talking, like through our first webinar, like this has always been a 2-dimensional issue. Adopt, don't shop. Pet stores, bad. Commercial breeders, bad. Like it's all been very 2-dimensional. But when you start to look at it, everything it's almost like 4-dimensional. Like it's so deep because we have refused to look past the surface. We could have been doing this work the whole time. The whole time to figure out what the scope of the problem
and then
is.
the public would be more informed, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we should see an increase in USDA licensed breeders because of this, right? Ideally.
Yes,
Yeah,
ideally, yeah. If our complaints are taken seriously and then they're vetted, we're hoping to see an influx in whatever amount of time. Like we're at the mercy of how fast the USDA works or how fast the state works.
If we file a complaint on someone and say they need to be licensed, and then a year later we're still seeing them and they're still not licensed, like how much time do we give before we file another complaint?
A year's probably we'd file another complaint.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice though because as we're doing like our complaint Fridays, the USDA has gotten quite responsive to us. The states can be responsive to us. Is they'll like let you know like, hey, we got your complaint. Here's like a tracking code. You can check in within 30 to 60 days. Like FOIA the information about like their investigation. So there are ways that we can follow up on that. I don't know how consistent we'll be about that because like we have a lot of complaints.
And we kind of I don't want to say we move on, but we file a complaint and then we move to the next complaint we have to file.
If we had to FOIA every single complaint that is coming out of this project though, that would be hundreds of FOIAs. Like we could do that, but also that's a burden on the department as on top of what we're already asking them to do too.
And again, the way our database works, we're able to label specific breeders. And I want to say right now, we don't have a label in our database at all labeled puppy mill.
Nope. Yeah.
So you cannot go into our database and say bailing out Benji thinks I am a puppy mill, or bailing out Benji thinks that is a puppy mill, because we don't have that label. But we do have a lot of different labels that help us keep our work organized.
Just
and
information. Everything's based off of what we're seeing. Like if we need to file a complaint against you, you've got to file a complaint. If we think you might need one, we're watching you, and you've got to watch.
And if you filed the complaint, you get moved to license complaint filed, and then we know, like, as we're looking up US, because again, we pull these records so frequently that we catch breeders. Like, oh, we filed a complaint on you. You have a license.
Yes.
Yay.
So we'd be able to tell that way.
Yeah. Now we just update the profile to reflect their new license status.
Yes.
Like, so the work we are doing it sounds simple, but we're trying to keep it clean behind the scenes. We're not trying to send pitchforks at the public or at these facilities. We're trying to just provide the transparency.
So that's why it's done quietly with the USDA, the regulating agency that should deal with it.
Right. Yeah. You said something else too, and maybe this is an entirely different episode, but you mentioned like some of the profiles are scams.
Yeah.
And my brain was like, oh, right,
Yeah.
those guys. I know people who have personally been scammed, who have ordered a
Yeah.
puppy that never came, that
Mhm.
never existed after they sent thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of these? And how do we know? Like, we find a breeder and
Yeah.
we start digging back until we realize all of a sudden it evaporates into nothing at all.
Yeah.
This is something, it's going to be a whole episode.
Yeah,
We
that
can
would
both
be a
give
fun
our short
episode.
little
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
but
Add that to the list.
in California, this is used as a talking point against the pet store bills, against the online brokering bills. So the pet industry, the breeders, all of the brokers, all of that, they have lobbyists, and they like to use the statistic from the Better Business Bureau, and it's something like there was a 300% spike in online puppy scams since the passage of that pet store bill, and this is why it's safer to buy from a pet store. So of course they have their agenda.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we are seeing a huge spike in online puppy scams because scammers are going to scam. If people want your money, they're going to get your money.
Mhm.
I cannot say a puppy mill is scamming the public by posting fake puppies for
Yeah.
sale. So that's my little, I just wanted to
Right.
get that into the
Yeah.
conversation.
It's not a
because
puppy
we're
mill
not
if the
seeing-
puppies don't exist.
We're not
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
online puppy mills scamming, besides maybe selling sick puppies or selling
Yeah.
in an unregulated
Right.
fashion. We are seeing someone who wants to harm another human, who creates a fake website, who creates a fake profile, and they are doing it.
Right.
They are doing it outside of this industry.
Right.
They're
They're
doing it
not
outside of
breeders.
us. They're
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
exactly.
they're scammers.
So
Yeah, I mean, from like doing puppies.com projects, like my perspective is I don't think those profiles stick around very long. And so when we're going through projects, we do have the ones that like, oh, they're still up and running. They'll tell you how long they've been on puppies.com, and like you can verify information outside of the profile connected back to that person. That seems legit. They seem to be a breeder. They seem to be having puppies. I haven't run into a lot of scams myself because I assume they'd be like the no longer advertising profiles, because we go back to a profile and that link's no longer available, or it says like, oh, that profile expired, because like expired, I think they created it quickly and had like a verification like timeline, and then they didn't meet it, and then that profile got taken down. So I feel like those are probably more likely to be the scams, but we don't see them actively on puppies.com for a long enough period.
but the website we haven't talked about yet, which is a problem and where most scams are coming from in my anecdotal experience, is Craigslist.
Yeah,
Craigslist isn't something we can track in a meaningful way. And there would almost be, there's a lot of community sellers on Craigslist. So these are people who had a litter in their community and are trying to sell it in their community. That is where you see the fake puppies. You'll see a photo that they just got off the internet and it's a blurry little Yorkie. And then someone's like, oh, $500, Venmo me, PayPal. Like,
Yeah.
So that is really where we see a lot of scams. I would argue I would say it would be less likely to pop up on a marketplace site out of fear of, I think the seller themselves would fear they would get caught faster.
Yeah.
Than Craigslist, either your ad gets flagged within seconds, because there's a whole world of online advocates who flag Craigslist sales. Like that is their passion, and that is what they do. So they flag them every single day. So either the ads disappear quickly, or they've got someone on the hook. They've got a few people. They're selling that fake puppy, and then the ad disappears before someone can say, hey, that puppy doesn't exist. Here's that online.
And right,
sale.
even if they're found out and the ad comes down, all they need is one person to fall for it, and they've made a few $1,000, and then they just run the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, scams are a problem, but I think that a specific community is often targeted. I think a lot of senior citizens, not always, but a lot of seniors are unfortunately scammed just by puppies and sellers that have never existed in the first place. So again, wild, wild west, black market online, like all of those scary terms. It is big. It is scary. But that's why we have to educate people. Research. Like if you're going to buy a dog, if your friend is going to buy a dog, to our listeners, if your friend or family member is going to buy a dog, don't get mad at them. It's their choice. I wish they would adopt too. Say, hey, I'll help you find a breeder, but first, have you looked at petfinder.com? There are ways you can still plug adoption while saying, let me get a hold of bailing out Benji.
So Pet Finder's only adoption. That's only
adoption.
rescues and shelters.
Yeah. And so typically when someone comes to me and they're like, maybe I'm really interested in a Yorkie, like what can you do? I will say, Oh gosh, well, let me look into the 2 breeders you sent me. I'll let you know what I know about them. But have you seen petfinder.com? Here are the Yorkies available for adoption.
Mhm.
There are ways to do both and to keep adoption in the conversation without shaming and blaming someone for making a decision that we wouldn't make. Because the minute we cut our friends and family and our community out, they're no longer going to trust you. They're not going to come to you for a resource, and they will be the ones who are scammed. They will be the ones who buy the sick puppies. So if you're the responsible person, like, have these conversations even when they're uncomfortable. But anyway, fundraising, not really fundraising pitch, but Paw and Order. We still have a few of those shirts left over from our gala.
Yeah.
On the front, it says Paw and Order and Puppy Mills, and on the back, it's a cute little like twist on Law and Order's like introduction. Dun dun. So you can go on our website. I'll put it in the episode notes today, but we have a few left over if you want to wear it.
They've been so popular.
Yeah. It's fun to see them in the wild. So.
Yes.
Yeah. And truly, I wear it to the grocery store and people are like, oh my God, your shirt's so funny.
Yeah.
And I don't watch Law and Order, so it means nothing to me. But to people who do watch it,
yes,
anytime I'm out wearing that shirt, they're like, oh my gosh, I love that.
But
so
even
much.
if you don't watch it, you
It's
still
still
know
funny.
the dun dun.
Right. Yeah. And just the wording of it, like you can hear it read in that announcer voice. Like if you've ever watched any show like that, you know that announcer voice and you can just hear the script being read that's on the back. And it is, it's so funny.
This is off topic, but kind of way on topic. So the Law and Order SVU is the Law and Order I particularly watch. There are lots of branches of that whole world, but I watch SVU, which is probably the worst one to watch for mental health reasons.
Yeah.
It's horrific. But Mariska Hargitay is Olivia Benson. She's like the leader. She just did an interview where she was promoting one of her favorite nonprofits, and it's called Purple Leash, I think. I'll link it in the notes if I got it wrong, but it helps women with domestic violence situations get out. And she was talking about how important it is to have more domestic violence shelters make space for pets because women are refusing to leave these situations. And again, Moochie, right? Like there are things, but people don't always leave if they don't have safety for their pets. And so I love that she also cares about animals. And anyway, it's kind of off topic. But
I was on the Maddie's Fund conversation last week was about homeless shelters accommodating for pets as well. And the person who was speaking was saying that they have an animal shelter in connection with the people shelter, and they're 2 different locations because they can't have the animals on site at the shelter, but it's they arrange for the people who are in the shelter to be able to have their animals and visit them and know that they're taken care of, and then even have foster homes for longer term, trying to accommodate that as well. So I love hearing those stories.
The ARL of Iowa in Des Moines has a crisis foster program, and I think it's pretty small. Like I don't know how big it is, but they will help someone for a limited amount of time if you need it and you're in crisis. So I really appreciate that. I think that rescues could have a big impact if they kind of leaned into that a little more, and making space for random fosters, the ones that aren't necessarily going to get adopted. But, anywho, do you have anything else you want to add before we end?
Oh gosh, no, I guess just stay tuned for next week's episode where we get to invite and have conversations with our volunteers who are in this work, our actual online sleuths. I think that'll be a fun conversation. They love what they do. They're super passionate about it, so I'm excited to have them on next week.
Well, thanks for sitting with us this week, everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.